Wednesday morning. It's July 21st, 2021. I'm Guy McPherson of Nature Bats Last. You can find Nature Bats Last at guymcpherson.com. Today's headline is just so clever that I had to find 15 or 20,000 papers to squeeze into the headline, 2C or not 2C. And I start with something funny. I have an app on my phone called What the Forecast, and it reported for the day I was about to record this. Look at the bright side. It's only cloudy. At least you're not on fire. That's effing good, right? But it spells out the effing word. I just can't say it in the space or bad things will happen. All right. From the Los Angeles Times, July 11th, 2021, the headline reads, Unrecognizable. Lake Mead, a lifeline for water in Los Angeles and the West, tips toward crisis. I'm glad it hasn't tipped into crisis yet, even though it clearly has. Here's the lead. Eric Richens looked out from his pontoon boat to the shallows on the lake's western edge. He squinted and paused as if he had come upon a foreign shore. For the first time in a career navigating the waters of the American West, he didn't know where he was. Quote, I could have sworn I was here just 6 weeks ago catching smallmouth and bigmouth bass, said the 35-year-old fisherman who runs tours on this 240 square mile basin where the Colorado River meets the Hoover Dam to form the nation's largest reservoir. He goes on, I knew the drought was bad. I didn't realize it was this bad. This place is unrecognizable. And that's where the word unrecognizable as the first word in the headline comes from. Here's a man who has been leading tours on this lake for essentially his entire adult life, and he finds it unrecognizable. That's the nature of the drought gripping the American West. Next month, as in August, the federal government expects to declare its first ever shortage on the lake. First ever. Triggering cuts to water delivered to Arizona, Nevada, and Mexico on January 1st. If the lake, currently at 1,068 feet, drops 28 more feet by next year, the spigot of water to California will start to tighten in 2023. It's at the lowest level since Hoover Dam was built in the 1930s. Another little tidbit in this article, as fires sweep over large swaths of the West and scorching temperatures fry others, the scarcity of water is a less visible, but perhaps the most pressing consequence of climate change confronting the states that depend on Lake Mead, what we called, when I was working on the campus at the University of Arizona, Lake Mud. But we didn't see it getting to be just mud this quick. Here's another quote from Richens, who was a former wildlife biology professor at Salish Kootenai College in Montana. Quote, the places where I was catching fish last spring and summer just don't have fish anymore. As the water drops, the habitat for fish changes because some of their homes are no longer available, end quote. So here's a person who understands the concept of habitat, a biologist who's been teaching it for a while. So that's bad news everywhere you turn. From Common Dreams, the headline from July 7th, 2021, North America just experienced hottest June on record for now. The subhead, quote, this was the hottest June on record until next year and the year after that and the year after that, unless we address the climate crisis. Somebody apparently has no idea how to address the climate crisis, because if we reduce industrial activity, we'll drive ourselves to extinction even faster than we're already driving ourselves to extinction. The quote there comes from an unnamed progressive via Twitter. I'm not sure what somebody who writes for Common Dreams is doing over on Twitter, but whatever. If that's your source, that's your source. In any event, quoting a paper from The Guardian published the same day, July 7th, 2021, in which The Guardian is quoting the Copernicus Climate Change Service in Europe. Quote, June temperatures in North America were 1.2 degrees C higher than the average from 1991 to 2020, which is more than 2 degrees C above pre-industrial levels. End quote. Wait, what? Did The Guardian and quoting The Guardian, Common Dreams, just say that we're more than 2 degrees C above pre-industrial levels? I think so. The Guardian goes on, this is the 12th consecutive year of above average June temperatures in the region and the greatest increase recorded until now. So that seems like kind of bad news. I went over to The Guardian and sure enough, this paper from Common Dreams was quoting The Guardian correctly. But I spent 2 hours poking around at the Copernicus Climate Change Service, Europe's go-to source for information about temperatures and other weather events. I couldn't find a thing. So The Guardian claims to be quoting directly from the Copernicus Climate Change Service, indicating we're over 2C, but I couldn't find that. In either case, whether it exists or not, at the Copernicus website, it's amazing that The Guardian would quote it. It's amazing that Common Dreams would quote The Guardian quoting it. Let's just say it's amazing. All right. From the debrief at thedebrief.org comes this paper, July 7th, 2021, headline, Climate Change Causing More Than 5 Million Deaths Annually, says new study. More than 5 million deaths. I get asked every single day via ridiculous email message, when does it start? When does what start? We're already at or near 2 degrees C above the 1750 baseline. That's a huge number. In 2017, James Hansen and colleagues wrote a paper that was published indicating that we are on the hottest globe ever experienced by our species. When is it starting? It started. It started a long time ago, and it's ongoing. Here's the lead. A study just published by the Lancet Planetary Health Journal found that nearly 5.1 million extra deaths a year can be attributed to the global effects of climate change. And that's a lot. In contrast to previous peer-reviewed articles that focused only on a single country or a region, the lead author of this paper points out, quote, this is the first study to get a global overview of mortality due to non-optimal temperature conditions between 2000 and 2019, the hottest period since the pre-industrial era. Importantly, we used 43 countries' baseline data across 5 continents with different climates, socioeconomic and demographic conditions, and differing levels of infrastructure and public health services. So the study had a large and varied sample size, unlike previous studies. So this is an important paper published on July 1st, 2021 in the Lancet Planetary Health, a peer-reviewed journal. It's written by Qi Zhao and 67 other authors from around the world. And it points out via quick sentence from the introduction, Earth's average surface temperature has risen at a rate of 0.07 C per decade since 1880, a rate that has nearly tripled since the 1990s. So again, pointing to a rapid increase in temperature and more recently an even more rapid increase in global average temperature. And they point out that globally 5,083,173 deaths were associated with non-optimal temperatures per year, accounting for 9.43% of all deaths. So that's a lot. Nearly 10% of all deaths. And I suspect, given the conservative nature of the peer-reviewed literature, that is probably a conservative figure. In other news, also from July 7th, 2021. In this case, the paper is from EOS, the science news magazine for the American Geophysical Union. The headline reads, "Half of the IPCC scenarios to limit warming don't work." Half? All. None of them work. They're talking specifically about limiting warming to 1.5 C. Guess what? We passed 1.5 C above the 1750 baseline years ago. And remember, the Advisory Group on Greenhouse Gases in October of 1990 concluded that 1 degree above the 1750 baseline, 1 degree C above the 1750 baseline was the absolute point we could not cross, or we would begin to trigger self-reinforcing feedback loops. Other people have pointed to those self-reinforcing feedback loops being triggered much before 1 degree C. Most notably, David Spratt, in a 2014 presentation, pointed out that we began triggering those at around a half a degree C above the 1750 baseline. From the paper that EOS was pointing to in Environmental Research Letters, published May 25th, 2021, and I love the title of the paper. It's published by Lila Warzowski and 15 other authors, and the title reads, "All options, not silver bullets, needed to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees C. A scenario appraisal." All options? One of those options better be a time machine, because that's the only way we're going to reach 1.5 degrees C above the 1750 baseline, is with a time machine, and one that we better get cranking real fast. From the abstract, climate science provides strong evidence of the necessity of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees C, in line with the Paris Climate Agreement. The IPCC 1.5 C Special Report, SR 1.5, presents 414 emission scenarios modeled for the report, of which around 50 are classified as 1.5 degrees C scenarios. We do not find any 1.5 degree scenarios that stay within all medium upper bounds on the 5 mitigation levers. Scenarios most frequently overuse carbon dioxide removal technologies with geological storage as a mitigation lever. Well, as multi-talented, incredibly brilliant engineer Dr. Ye Tao at Harvard's Roland Institute points out, there's no place to store the carbon if it's captured. There's no room for it. There's enough space on Earth to take that captured carbon. The capturing is not that huge of a deal. There's no place to put it. No unoccupied place to put that carbon. So that seems problematic, and I seem to be saying that a lot. Oh, there's more. This one from The Guardian, July 8th, 2021, headline, "Climate crisis, quote, may put 8 billion at risk of malaria and dengue," end quote. 8 billion? That's more than the number of people currently occupying the planet. Oh, here's the explanation. From the lead, more than 8 billion people could be at risk of malaria and dengue fever by 2080. By 2080, if greenhouse gas emissions continue to rise unabated, a new study says. 2080, this is the least of my worries. Malaria and dengue fever will spread to reach billions of people, according to new projections. Researchers predicted up to 4.7 billion more people could be threatened by the world's 2 most prominent mosquito-borne diseases, compared with 1970 to 1999 figures. This, of course, is based on projections of population growth of about 4.5 billion over the same period. So we're going to produce 4.5 billion more people on the Earth, and a temperature rise of about 3.7 C by, you guessed it, Trashland 2100. Some days. Here's the paper being quoted by this newspaper article in The Guardian. Again from the Lancet Planetary Health Journal, July 7th, 2021. The title is "Projecting the Risk of Mosquito-Borne Diseases in a Warmer and More Populated World." a multi-model, multi-scenario intercomparison modeling study. Wow, that's a lot of syllables in one title. Sounds like something written by an academic. And this paper is written by Felipe Corlin Gonzalez and 7 other scholars who have no idea what's going on in the world. Finally, because I started with something funny, I'm going to end with something funny. This from the Associated Press, July 11th, 2021. The headline, Yellen, as in Janet Yellen, head of the Federal Reserve System. Yellen, U.S. regulators to assess risk posed by climate change. Really? I think he got that turned around. Civilization is a heat engine. Part of civilization is that monetary system that you're talking about. U.S. regulators to assess risk posed by climate change. Not risk posed by the monetary system for climate change, but the other way around. One of us is very confused. Maybe all of us are very confused. I'm certainly confused. And I'm a little irritated too. Maybe you can tell. In any event, sorry we didn't produce one of these last week. Personal obligations got in the way. We'll try to put another one of these out there in about a week. Thanks for staying tuned, and feel free to subscribe and also to join as a member of the Nature Bats Last YouTube channel.